For me personally, I feel that the one that stood out the most was the characteristic with super leaders. I really enjoyed reading about how, by promoting others to become self-independent, it gives people the opportunity to show their own strengths, to promote self-leadership. I like the idea of empowering people to have behavior modification, to modify their own behaviors, to go from having a supervisor or a manager assigning goals to someone to having them assign their own goals for themselves. I find that when you promote people to this type of leadership, they tend to enjoy their tasks a little more because, their strengths are more definitive within themselves. You empower people to set their own goals, and I think that's really important in building self-esteem, and it helps people increase their own confidence and just think positively about the roles that they take on. So that's my personal approach, and the one that I like the most. So I'll pass on the microphone to the next person. Ryan, what was the approach of leadership that stood out to you the most?
Before I go there, first I want to say I do definitely agree with you on the giving the people or somebody giving them the power to excel or fail at their own. I think that definitely is good leadership. But for me, I was leaning more towards, I chose the transformational is what I thought and felt was the best leadership style or approach. I highly believe in just with the transformational, like they provide rewards for people's efforts. They recognize people's performances. I also believe that, especially for that, it's very successful. Transformational has been used a long time. Even in the book, they did state that military is something that uses it. Military is definitely it's been in place for a long time, and we've been very successful in the military for what we do. The only thing that I don't agree with on transformational really is if it ain't broke, don't fix it policy, and that they agree with the if it ain't broke, you're not looking hard enough policy. I agree that that's not always the case. That I can tell you from personal experience at work, we have something that just rolled out, and it is definitely not, it was not broken. It worked wonderfully. It definitely had no reason to be fixed. It now has more errors now that they tried to fix it and it's broke. But I definitely believe that's the best policy, especially for, just because I am very believe in recognition and overall performance, and just positive constructive feedback. Just like they said also in the book with like IBM with Thomas Watson, where one of the high executives made a $10 million blunder, they said. And he said, well, I walked in and said, I guess you want my resignation. And they said, why would you say that? We just spent $10 million on education for you to what not to do and how to succeed for themselves. So that's my take. Susie, how about you?
I totally agree with you. I also chose the transformational leadership style as the one that stuck out the most to me. It, like you said, praising jobs well done and good performance, and not only criticizing where followers or employees need to improve is, I think, crucial. A lot of the managers that I've had in the past focus so much on the things you do wrong or the things that you could do better, rather than finding something good to at least sugarcoat it a little bit, I think by doing that, it just really, it reduces job satisfaction and performance overall. So, by providing rewards and praising the job well done, I think it's huge. Another thing that I like that the book mentioned is the fact that transformational leaders kind of teach their followers how to lead themselves, which ties in to what Lorena was saying with the super leaders. So it almost is an element of that as well. I also, when I think of a transformational leader, I think of somebody who, is excited about the vision and is consistently excited about it. They don't ebb and flow on whether, today they're going to be really excited and work to motivate their team, and tomorrow they're completely removed. They're consistently excited, and that excitement's contagious. So it gets the team excited and they work harder. So, Tayler, what do you think?
I actually completely agree. And to build upon what you and Lorena are both saying, it's great that such a culture breeds more leaders. I mean, like in chapter 4, the saying from Ralph Nader, I think his name was, is the function of leadership is to produce more leaders, not more followers. And I think, to me, I mean, I'm with you guys that transformational is kind of the leadership style I liked most, but that empowerment is, to me, the biggest thing that anyone can ever do. I mean, chapter 5 even touched upon empowerment and using your power to help others, and focus on cooperation and create this culture, the supportive culture of being the best that you can be and bringing to the table everything you can, and telling employees that you can do this. It's not, I'm leader, you guys have to follow me and do what I say. It's, I support you guys. You guys do what you need to do. You learn from your mistakes, and you move forward from that, and you grow from your experience. You grow from everything that you find, and you create this team atmosphere that empowers everyone at the same time that it's empowering you. So I think that's the biggest thing. And that's also, Lorena, what you were saying with self-leadership. I think that's the big thing with self-leadership too, is it's you learn to lead, you learn these skills, you learn these things of how to empower yourself and be a fantastic employee and have all this, all these abilities and skills and knowledge. So I think that's really important.
Yeah, on top of that, I'd like to add too, I think even, despite that we all kind of gravitate to different types of leadership, I think it all comes down to the consensus of encouraging individual responsibility. I think that's just so important, no matter what role you have, whether, someone assigns a task to you or someone delegates the responsibility for you to, take over a task. I mean, I feel like in a lot of the workplaces nowadays, you're told to learn how to talk, how to be vocal, how to give your opinion. But many of times people forget to learn how to listen to other people, to hear other people's ideas, to collaborate, to listen to their ideas, compare them to yours, and seek a consensus. Because I think that a lot of times that's what creates a lot of problems and miscommunication, even conflict in any business or in any area where you're working in a group setting. And I think just having that clarity of what your role and then what you bring to the table within a group is very important. And I think that is displayed across a lot of these various leadership approaches.
I definitely agree with you on that. I was thinking, chapter 4 touched upon the communication approach and how it's the back and forth communication as leadership. You have to listen in order to communicate. You have to have, it highlights charisma, but it really is being able to listen to what everyone else needs in order to fit what you need too. Yeah. I completely agree.
And piggybacking on the charisma, I think for me, kind of the things I've learned is half of being able to communicate with others is learning to listen to others, just like the other saying. Because if I just keep talking and don't let anybody else chime in, we end up way off out in right field where we're supposed to be over here. Because I went off on a tangent rather than listening to the opinion and the skill set of other individuals, kind of like we talked about last week. There's those leaders that listen to others and are able to take other people's opinions and other people's skill sets and apply them to themselves. That's not necessarily my approach, but I'm just piggybacking and saying that's definitely a skill set that has to be learned, that if you want to be charismatic and be that type of leader, that you also have to be willing to listen and learn from anybody else and those people that work around you. Anybody else, you want to chime in on that?
Listening, I think, is important to any style of leadership. You'll never be able to identify what your group members need, what their interests are, or anything if you're not listening to what they have to say. And I mean that goes for direct communication as well as just interpersonal, casual communication. You're never going to be able to meet their needs if you don't know what they are, So listening, I think, is crucial.
I want to just chime in and on that and just say, even chapter 6 touched on that about the influencing people. You can't, without listening, you can't know what to respond to say to influence somebody if you're just stuck on your own ideas. And they definitely went into that in chapter 6 with learning how, especially if somebody's being argumentative, being or aggressive versus how not to be aggressive, to respond, how to listen to respond and know when somebody's changing the tone of the conversation when they're not getting what they want. So that's just another thing I just want to chime in on.
I mean, I building even more upon that. I mean, chapter 5 talks about constructive organizational politics. And I mean, that's part of it too, trying to figure out the ideas and go off of that. So I think we're all in agreement that listening is a huge part of any good work climate and leadership, right?
Definitely. It's going to tie in right where I want to kind of take the group here to kind of wrap up the discussion. I read through the text and I read transformation. I was like, dang, is this really me? Is this where I'm going to end? And you read through everything else and you go back and you review and it's, okay, that's definitely who I am. And the part that I took from it, there's the 5 things that it lists. It talks about being creative. I'm always one to find a solution, and I'm opposite of Ryan. If it's broken, there's probably a better way to do it. And maybe not always. Maybe that better way isn't always the solution or the best way, but maybe there's always a better way. Or there's a way to adapt other people's opinions and other ways to achieve the goal maybe quicker or more efficiently or using less money or whatever. As well as being interactive, having a vision, empowering, like Tayler said, and then being compassionate with others. And that goes back to the listening. If you talk and never listen, you're losing that compassion for others and really caring about what they want. But the part that I like the most is having a vision. I was taught over the last 5 years, I've been trained with the company I previously worked for to have a vision, have a personal vision. And my personal vision is I can do hard things. Every day I think about that. I can do things that other people can't do, or I can do things that I couldn't do yesterday. And I wake up and think about that, and how can I make it a little bit better? How can I do those things that are a little bit different? So having a vision across all general things in the world, it led to Ford making cars. It led to the Wright brothers taking flight. They didn't just wake up one day and say, "Oh, let's make an airplane and go fly." They had a vision. It took them a number of years to accomplish that. And sometimes a vision, personal vision, company vision, it doesn't happen day 1 to day 2. It can take 5 years. It can take 10 years. But that vision is what drives you individually as a leader. It's what drives you as a company to get to having a reality of fulfilling that goal. So overall, having a vision, it gives you a guideline. It's that blueprint. It's that motivation to get you to where you want to go. It gives you that empowerment, Tayler was talking about. And that empowerment gives you the opportunity to distribute the power, like chapter 5 says, to other people, to allowing them to take that power and grow themselves, and to go off of like what Susie said and becoming leaders themselves and being able to go further and being able to eventually be a leader themselves. Not all of us were born to be a leader, but we can all train to become a leader. And I definitely think that's my perspective. That's my opinion. And the 5 things that the transformational encompasses is always me. I'm always looking out for other people. I'm always trying to do something different. So that's kind of where I stand. And I definitely stand strong behind having a vision, because it gives me a purpose. So
I think that's a really good point. I mean, that's why they have all these companies have the visions put into words and posted everywhere so the employees feel that vision too. So I think that's a really good point.
It helps everybody identify with the same cause.
Right. I think one of the main reasons why super leadership just really stood out to me is currently where I'm employed. I work in an administrative capacity, but I'm surrounded by VPs and directors and managers who, their leadership styles. I mean, these people come from different backgrounds, but just allowing, and the reason why, like, getting back to why super leadership stood out to me is because I see that in a lot of resemblance in a lot of the management that I work with directly. The teams that we work with, I mean, they're so complex. I work in the field of airplanes, manufacturing commercial jets and business jets. And I mean, we've got groups of people who specialize in avionics and, mid-cabin design, instrumentation, the paneling on these gorgeous aircraft. And these people are absolute experts, in their own tasks. But the minute that you ask them to collaborate with other people, it's like deer in headlights. It's like, oh, well, that's not my expertise. And by allowing people to become independent and allow them to, have a little bit more clarity on their roles and then start communicating with other people and other groups, you start seeing them increasing their problem solving skills because it gets them out of their comfort zone. They get to work outside their own little box. And, from a leadership perspective, I mean, I'd love to wherever, my career leads me. I mean, I would love to be able to be a role model and instill that kind of flexibility in my team. The case study that the book has in chapter 5 about the Orpheus Chamber Orchestra, I don't know if you guys got a chance to read that yet, is really neat. I mean, these people just basically, they take turns exactly the way that we are doing right now, with this interaction where we know exactly what we want to talk about. We identify our key points, but then we all see a relationship in everything that we talk about. It's almost like you become in sync being with those people, relating to the main goal that you're trying to get to. And for us, it's having this discussion and bouncing off of each other's opinions and thoughts. And I mean, I think that's outstanding. I think that's really what collaboration and leadership and having a good consensus in a group is all about.